Dear friends, I want to share with you a speech that was a real breakthrough in German politics. Sarah Wagenknecht's speech on the occasion of German Unification Day caused a real storm. Her words criticized the government so sharply that it was literally blown to smithereens, exposing all the absurdity and danger of Germany's current policy. This is not just criticism, but a real emotional storm that makes even the most devoted supporters of Scholz's course think. Wagenknecht reminded the whole of Germany that it was the Soviet Union, it was the Russians, neglecting their own national interests, that allowed Germany to become united again. And what is modern Germany doing? She is pursuing an aggressive, confrontational policy towards Russia, as if she has forgotten who gave her the chance to unite. According to her, Germany betrayed not only Russia, but also the historical memory of their fate. And now, decades later, we see German tanks again, cutting through Russian soil. In this context, Wagenknecht asks the question, if Putin is a criminal, as some claim, then what about the numerous conflicts in which NATO countries were directly involved? Isn't this double standards and hypocrisy? She also discussed the issue of the deployment of American missiles in Germany, which, in her opinion, would be a death sentence for the country. In this case, missiles can be directed at German cities, and the common people will be targeted. Friends, get ready to hear one of the most striking speeches in German politics over the past few years. Before I begin, I want to add a few words about the situation. Under increasing pressure from the United States, the German leadership continues to pursue a policy of confrontation with Russia. One of the most alarming steps is the plans to deploy American medium-range missiles in Germany, which has caused serious alarm in Moscow. German politicians persist in repeating the thesis of alleged Russian aggression and a threat to the security of Europe and Germany, claiming that their actions are aimed solely at defense. However, this rhetoric hides a much more complex and deep context that many prefer to ignore. German politicians seem to have forgotten that it was Russia and the Soviet Union that did everything possible to make Germany united again. In the 90s, when East and West Germany reunified, it was not the Americans, the British, or the French who facilitated this process. It was Moscow that made significant concessions, agreeing to the unification of Germany under minimal conditions and without special guarantees. Soviet troops left the territory, and this created unique conditions for unification. Then Russia showed itself not as an aggressor, but as a strategic partner, ready to support peace initiatives. However, 3 decades later, all this is forgotten, and German politicians have completely switched to following instructions from Washington, enthusiastically supporting any anti-Russian initiatives, be it sanctions or the deployment of NATO weapons near the Russian borders. The missiles that Germany plans to deploy on its territory may become another milestone in the escalation of the conflict. Under the cover of statements about the alleged Russian threat, German leaders are only adding fuel to the fire, continuing to increase tensions in the region. The most ironic thing about this situation, friends, is that aggressive rhetoric and sanctions policy have already caused significant damage to Germany itself. The severance of economic ties with Russia, which was initiated by Berlin under pressure from sanctions, led to a sharp reduction in energy supplies. Germany, which has been dependent on Russian gas and oil for many years, is now facing a serious energy crisis. And so, friends, let's finally listen to what Sarah Wagenknecht said. Quote, "We are gathered here today on the 3rd of October, on the day when the unification of Germany took place. This has already been said, but I want to say it very clearly once again. On a day like this, I want us to remember with gratitude the man who made this unification possible, the one who allowed changes to happen throughout Eastern Europe. When the Soviet Union withdrew its troops without firing a single shot, the man's name was Mikhail Gorbachev. He extended his hand to the world. I remember that time. The Cold War ended, the missiles disappeared, and there was a feeling that peace had finally come. But now, friends, we face a big threat again. A major conflict is brewing in the Middle East, and a terrible conflict has been going on in Eastern Europe for the 3rd year now, which threatens to escalate into a major European one. Once again, we are on the verge of having American intermediate-range missiles deployed in Germany, and we are being told that this is normal and that there is no need to protest against it. Oh my God, this is crazy. No, what's happening now is damn dangerous. I must say that I am also horrified by how issues are being discussed in our country now, how people are being humiliated and insulted for calling for negotiations and diplomacy, exposing them as the voices of the Kremlin or Putin's press secretaries. It's a shame for those who say that we need diplomacy and negotiations, and it's great that you didn't give in to intimidation. After all, there were attempts to discredit this rally. Annalena Baerbock, for example, recently said something amazing, saying that the election results in East Germany pose a security threat to the country. I want to tell Mrs. Baerbock that she didn't understand something. The threat to Germany is people like you, Ms. Baerbock, those who are betting on war, and they are a threat to our country. That's the reason we're here today, to stop them. I must say that it is an insult to our intelligence when we are told that armament is security, that building up military forces ensures security. While countries such as the United States spend more than 50% of global military spending, this is 12 times more than Russia, which, by the way, is also increasing its military spending by waging conflicts and switching to a military economy. But these countries continue to increase their armaments. Who do they take us for? We will not allow ourselves to be deceived. We need money for schools, hospitals, and for our lives, not for death and guns. I am also incredibly annoyed when we are constantly being reproached with morality, with this great morality about wars, values that are supposedly being waged. We are told that for moral reasons it is impossible to talk to Putin because he is a criminal. Yes, I'm being very clear. Any politician who starts a conflict is a criminal. War is a crime, and there must always be other ways. But please, no double standards. If a politician who starts a war is a criminal, what about all those American politicians who are responsible for the numerous conflicts of recent years, where millions of people have suffered, where there have been so many victims? Are they not criminals? What should we stop talking to them? What kind of crazy morality is this? It's not morality, it's double standards. And the last thing I want to say very clearly is that there is a wonderful quote by Erich Maria Remarque. I always thought that everyone is against war until I found out that there are those who are in favor of war, especially those who do not need to go there. That's what we see in the wars of this world, and we see it here in Germany. They tell us how to wage war, how to supply weapons, how to bring conflict to Russia, not realizing that they themselves are putting our country at risk. I want to be very clear. What I would really like is that I have always been against sending ground troops and participating in military operations abroad. But this battalion of heroes, which is so zealously advocating conflict, let's send them to the front. Let them go to these conflicts themselves. Let them experience for themselves what war is, how much suffering and pain it brings, how many victims. May this battalion of war heroes finally understand what war is, and then support our idea that conflicts need to be stopped, that we need diplomacy and negotiations, and I want to end on this note. We have to become even bigger, we have to become strong, we have to be a loud voice, and we have to stop these damn missiles that are really putting our country at risk from Russian nuclear missiles. Let's unite. No to US missiles, no to wars, and yes to negotiations. End of quote. My friends, the German policy towards Russia pursued by Chancellor Olaf Scholz is becoming an increasingly obvious mistake that undermines Germany's economic foundations. The abandonment of Russian energy resources, which was announced as part of a strategy to reduce dependence on Moscow, turned out to be not just a miscalculation, but a disaster for the German industry. In the context of the energy crisis, which began with the cessation of Russian gas supplies, many enterprises were on the verge of bankruptcy. Some have already announced their closure. According to the German Federal Agency for Statistics, the number of companies that have declared bankruptcy has increased by 40% compared to the 22nd year. This primarily affected the chemical and metallurgical industries, which were heavily dependent on cheap gas. One of the largest chemical companies in the world was forced to reduce production in Europe and consider moving its facilities abroad, where energy resources are much cheaper. In turn, thousands of jobs were at risk. Production is declining not only in the chemical and metallurgical industries. The automotive industry, which has always been the pride of Germany, is also experiencing significant volume declines. According to a study conducted by the Institute of German Economics in Cologne, by the middle of the 23rd year, about 120,000 jobs in the automotive industry were in danger of being cut. Experts predict that the figure will only grow. But Scholz's steps don't stop there, friends. He decided to focus his efforts on destroying relations with Germany's other key trading partner, China. Beijing remains the main export market for German cars, and any tension in relations with China could completely destroy the already weakened auto industry. European media reports that by the end of October, the European Union must decide on the introduction of tariff restrictions on the import of Chinese electric vehicles to the European market, justifying this by protecting the domestic market. However, such a move could lead to powerful retaliatory measures from China, which would deal a crushing blow to the German automotive industry at a time when companies such as Volkswagen or BMW are already experiencing difficulties due to rising energy and raw material prices. Any sanctions against China could result in mass layoffs and the eventual closure of production sites in Germany itself. A separate important element of the German economic disaster is the situation with the Nord Stream. While one of the strands of the gas pipeline remained intact after the sabotage, Berlin has not yet expressed any intention to put it into operation. Abandoning the use of this strategic energy corridor seems absurd against the background of the gas crisis and energy shortages in Europe. However, obeying pressure from Brussels and Washington, the Scholz government is not considering this issue at all. Instead, Germany is forced to purchase expensive liquefied natural gas from the United States, which only exacerbates economic problems. The main problem, friends, that I keep talking about is the limited sovereignty of modern Germany. Berlin cannot afford to pursue an independent foreign policy, and all important decisions are made under the influence of Brussels and its oceanic partners. Scholz cannot say a firm no to confrontation with Russia, which is actively being heated in the international arena, despite the fact that this policy is absolutely harmful and unprofitable for Germany. The interests of the German people and the economy are being sacrificed to the geopolitical ambitions of other countries, while German enterprises are closing down en masse or moving production outside the country. In this situation, Germany continues to degrade under the weight of foreign policy decisions that it is forced to make against its interests. And now I would like to express my opinion, friends. Reading this material, I cannot help but feel deeply sorry for the current situation in Germany and Europe as a whole. The policy of confrontation with Russia and the abandonment of energy resources, which for many years have been the basis of German industry, look like steps dictated not by the interests of the country, but by external pressure. It is painful to observe, because Germany has always been a symbol of stability and economic strength. Today, we see entire industries collapsing, thousands of people losing their jobs, and the energy crisis is becoming a new reality. It seems to me that in the desire to follow the course of external players, the national interests and well-being of their own citizens are forgotten. I sincerely hope that with the possible return of Donald Trump to the White House, the situation may change. Trump, as you know, was a proponent of reducing international tensions and a more pragmatic policy in relations with Russia and other countries. Trump has regained the presidency, and this may signal a review of many strategic decisions, including economic and energy ties in Europe. I hope that common sense will prevail, and Germany will have a chance to restore its economic position, preserving peace and stability for its citizens. Friends, be sure to write your opinion on the material. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and put likes. I am always pleased to read your comments. I wish you good health. See you later.